Welcome to the round table. I'm your host, Luna, and we have a full table this week. We have Jules. How you going, Jules?
Thanks for having me again.
Yeah, I'm off to a bumpy start. And we got Sharon. How you going, Sharon?
I'm doing great. It's a pleasure to be here as always.
And we got it. Our Naysay. How we going, Naysay? He's muted up at the moment. But he'll be, there he is.
I'm doing fantastic, as much as the universe will allow. Thank you.
Okay, and who else we got at the table? Anyone else join in? Polly? No. Okay, so we're going to start this off today. Today's food for thought is the question, what is truth? I was told once that people would prefer a beautiful lie to an ugly truth. And I was wondering, is truth an illusion? Is it momentarily? Is it grafted truth? Or is it the kind of truth that comes from within? That's what we're going to discuss tonight. So we're going to open up the table. And who wants to go first? No, I know takers. I'll keep going then. Okay, so I was thinking about this word, what is truth? I looked at truth from my point of view. I looked at truth from other people's point of view. And I found that it isn't always a solid ground. And it depends where you're standing and what's happening to you. And I had a few questions myself, and I'm sure that you people do too. So, and we have different kinds of truth. We have spiritual truth, we have political truth, we have scientific truth, and we just have ordinary truth, personal truth. And truth can change, and truth can be seen in your energy, believe it or not. So I'm going to open up the table now, and whoever wants to jump in first, you're quite welcome to. And we'll get this discussion going. Come on, Sharon, I know you always want to say something.
Well, I probably want to dip my toes in the water or jump right in because it's a unique topic. Everybody has their own individual truths, and then there's the collective truth.
Yeah.
I think I agree with you, Jules. I think it's kind of an overused word, truth. It's easy for people who want to manipulate outcomes. It's one of those words that they can use. And, the other thing is if you start out when we're children, we don't have filters, so we quote unquote tell the truth. And then we learn how to not exactly tell the truth, kind of withhold some of the things we might have said because we don't want to quote unquote hurt somebody's feelings. So we color it, it goes in a different way. It's, like I said, it's a kind of mystery word in some ways. It's a power word. It's a marketing word. It's a sales word. And again, I think it's very easy to manipulate this word and decide what outcome you want. And I think one thing I'd throw out there is, and this is based on so much of the last 18 months, is the most shocking thing that I've learned this 18 months. If I was to take a list and say the most top 10, this would be in the top 5, is that there are so many versions of this if we just look at the events of this last 18 months. That everybody believes with their whole heart and soul that they know the truth. That they feel like that they're operating with the truth. And because of the last 18 months, I think this has opened up so many avenues for me to think about this word.
Boy, same here.
I think that's why I chose it today, Sharon. I was just thinking about what you said about children and the truth. At what point are we told not to tell the truth? Like, when you said that, just went bang in my head, and I had incidences when I was young where I spoke the truth and I got crucified for it. And I'm like, but I was taught to tell the truth. I was taught to be honest and tell the truth. Then I grew up and realised that, like you said, you've got to tailor that truth so you don't hurt anyone's feelings. But I found that wasn't a really good thing. But for a child, you don't know where that barrier is because you haven't experienced it properly yet. Your first experience is that they're telling you to tailor the truth. What have we done? Is this world because of us? Because we've done that to our children?
I think we do a disservice. I agree, Luna.
And
If I may, I think the word truth has actually been done a little bit of a disservice because the truth should be impervious to any childlike questions because it's still going to answer every question with the truth. So in a way, questioning the truth should be encouraged if somebody's doubting the truth because the truth's always going to answer with the truth.
Oh, Polly, that's your corner position in the round table. I noticed even just at the beginning of this conversation, it's left us quiet. 4 times we've kind of gone quiet and everyone's just stunned by the truth. It is, when I really looked, I've grown up thinking, yeah, the truth's just the truth, yeah, holding up the banner for the truth. One day I said to one of my friends, and this was true for me, no black fella has ever laid a finger on me. Everything that's happened to me is a non-Indigenous person. And I said that to her, and she's an Aboriginal woman, and she turned around and she said, well, that's truth for you. And then I looked at her life and went, oh my goodness, it is. Because in her life it was a different situation. She had a lot of tangles with our own people, but it never happened to me. And I realised that day, hang on, my truth is different to yours in that area. And then I had
Or I think that there's a difference between individual truth and a collective truth.
And that's what I'm trying to get here. What's this collective truth? If we've got different individual truths, how are we walking forward to the one truth? I'm trying to look at that.
I think the collective truth is what everybody's searching for to get to the same place, to get to the same conclusion. How they get there, they're going to come up and find different areas of information to take them there, but you can't believe that's the collective truth until you feel something. For me, I know things. It's a spiritual guidance. It's a gut feeling. When I know something to be 100% certain, without a doubt, and somebody questions me, it's in my gut, and then I go into I hold my stance, and then as events unfold, when they're wrong, I feel it, and I have that sigh of it's over with. But that's me. Everybody's unique. Everybody's different.
I have a question. Because the difference between individual truth and collective truth, I'm wondering if maybe there's some kind of convolution between the word truth and reality, because truth is the truth no matter what the individual perceives, and realities can vary greatly. So just to say that somebody's reality is not real is an untruth. I understand that. But to say that it's I don't think there is an individual truth. I think there's a truth and then there's individual perceptions of that truth. And for that, we use the word reality.
I agree with I was just gonna say I agree with Polly. That's well said. Go ahead, Jules.
I mean, I agree, but I also disagree in the sense that a few of us who have self prophecies, we know things when they happen. For me, the things that I knew years ago in my personal life that are coming into play now, those are absolute 100% truths to myself, a personal truth, individual truth.
Okay.
Truth or trait?
I mean, I consider it a truth because a trait is a characteristic. The events that have happened, the way they've unfolded, it's more of a truth than a trait.
But are characteristics not true to an individual? See how the line is blurred here between the words truth? Like, what is the real meaning of the word truth? I think that needs to be established.
Yeah, that's what we're talking about. For me, I'm looking at it because I know that you can have truth that's been grafted. It comes from outside you and put on you, and then you have truth that's from within you and comes outside.
Truth is the property of being in accord with fact or reality. In everyday language, truth is typically ascribed to things that aim to represent reality or otherwise correspond to it, such as beliefs, propositions, and declarative sentences. Truth is usually held to the opposite of falsehood.
I kind of like Polly's comments about reality. What's really funny about this conversation for me right now, and I'm shocked, is it's truth. The word is just mushy. It's just free floating in the air. And the thing that comes up for me is that movie, A Few Good Men, with Tom Cruise and Jack Nicholson, when he screams at Tom Cruise, "You can't handle the truth." I think truer words have never been said this last 18 months. You can't handle the truth, And it's because it's just this free floating reality. And I don't even think I don't think of the word quote unquote truth anymore. I think of realities. And when I speak to people who I consider woke or, on the other side of the coin or whatever, I'm speaking to a different reality. So, and I have to let go of what I think is my truth because I'm never going to be able to communicate to the other side because I want to feel like my energy is coming from a place, quote unquote, of the truth, but that's just my reality. And that's what's opened up for me this last 18 months.
I like where you went with that, where you just totally made me think of that line in that movie in a totally different light just now. He said, "You can't handle the truth." And what I always took that to mean is that I don't have the mental fortitude to be able to understand the truth. But what he really kind of means at the same time is that the truth cannot be handled. It cannot be manipulated. It can't be like, you can't put it in your hands. You can't put it somewhere. You can't hide it somewhere. You can't build it. You can't mask it. You can't do anything with it. It cannot be handled. It's empirical in this existence.
Exactly. If you go back to that scene, what he says after he screams out at him is he says, what you don't want to think about in a cocktail party where you're talking to your friends is what we do behind that wall, what we do to protect this nation, right? I mean, he had gone off the reservation, and granted, he was not a good guy. He'd gone way too far in the dark side. But he took what he thought was his truth, the quote unquote reality, and took it to a place. And that's why he said to Tom, "You can't handle the truth. You can't handle what's really going on." And I go back to this last 18 months. What's really going on? And that's been the popper. It's really, what's the reality?
See, okay, this is where I think the term reality has a huge part to play here, because a truth and a lie if you go by the recent Hermetic thing that Kev brought up, I actually ended up reading all of that, and a truth and a lie are just different degrees of the same thing, and that same thing would logically be, at least from what I can deduce, reality.
I said a word not long ago, the word honesty, which I think holds the hand of truth. Unless you can honestly lie, but I don't think so. Unless you're good at it. See, now you're starting to see what I saw, that truth hasn't got a solid platform. It's actually all tangible. And it's a bit scary, actually. But we can feel the truth. This is the thing. No matter what we hear or see, there's something inside us that feels the truth, no matter what it is or what platform it comes from. And it's like a beeper that goes bing, bing, bing when the truth's being violated. It goes bing, 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 bing. And I got a feeling that some of this confusion is because of what we're taught when we're growing up to tailor the truth. I don't know about you, but I would rather someone tell me an ugly truth than a beautiful lie. I was just wondering how you fellas feel about that.
I feel confident in that the truth cannot be violated.
What do you mean by that?
It's always going to be the truth, whether somebody says it isn't or is.
Okay, I agree with you on
So
that.
it can't be violated. It can only be distorted, and that is basically the way you perceive that distortion is going to be up to your own reality, I guess you could say.
Well, if it's the truth, you're right, then it can't be violated. Like, if I keep going back to people who give speeches, right? And once they go off the path, going back to that movie, once they go off the path, then the beep, 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 or the bing, bing, bing that you were talking about, Luna, stops beeping. It's like, oh, we lost them. Or even you can tell if you go off your own path and you go, oh, I lost me. I got lost here. Or I had to say something that I don't really believe because that's what time it is, or this is the conversation, or I don't have it. I feel like it's better to say this than quote unquote what I perceive might be real, right? It's almost like the truth has become a weapon, and it's been hijacked. Maybe that's the word I've been looking for. Like many things that have gone on this last 18 months, it's been hijacked, and I liked your word honesty, Luna. That's a good word. That seems to be less triggering and less of a loaded word right now. Mm-hmm. It's not being violated.
Mm-hmm. Is it not interesting that the truth has always been sort of compared to a dagger in like stories and writing?
Yeah.
And now we're just realizing it's being weaponized.
Yeah, it is. That's true. It's been weaponized. Once it was something that you held close, and now it's a weapon. It's like, whoa, got to watch out. Where's this truth coming from? What's this truth look like? Whose is it? That's more likely.
A weapon and a tool are the same thing.
True. Because, a rake can be a tool to grow food, and also can be a weapon.
True, such as the shovel.
Mm-hmm. So, okay, so let's get a bit deeper into this.
So you're saying we just passed the 3 feet zone, now we're going into the 5 foot zone?
Yeah, we are. Let's get more. So it can kind of be an illusion, truth. Unless you look at it properly and be honest with yourself. I don't know, there comes a point where you got to go filter through yourself and go, is that truth really mine, or did somebody give it to me and I just sort of didn't pay attention and it become a part of me and it's not really me? I've had that happen to me.
What about the word law? That must have something to do with truth, in my opinion. Like, I'm not talking about like legal law. I'm talking about laws of nature, laws of physics, and those kind of laws. Well, they have to be tied somehow to truth.
Well, that's where I think the reality comes in, Polly, because the reality is when an animal's hungry, it'll go and find something to eat, right? Whether it kills another animal to eat it or it eats a plant. Okay? That's reality. We all know that we'd do the same thing. If we were living out there and we're hungry, we'll go find food, whether it's a plant food or we kill an animal to do it. That's reality.
But why do you call that reality and not truth?
Because the truth about it, to me, if I went hunting, I would have to consider what I was doing before I did it, I wouldn't just kill any animal, because I know that some animals are spiritual animals, and if you kill one of them, it's not good. And you wouldn't kill the last animal, you know what I mean? Or a mum with a baby, you wouldn't kill it then. You'd wait for the baby to grow so there's more. Do you know what I'm getting at? Unless, you know, well, that's the truth. In this world, we need to eat.
So then I guess what you're saying
That's
almost
reality.
is that the truth can affect reality,
Yep.
and reality
Can affect the truth.
describe the truth.
Yeah, here we go to that illusion. Looks like a watercolour painting, and now it's starting to move. Yeah, obviously it does. Truth affects reality, and reality can affect the truth. So in reality, I think the water's cold and I don't like swimming, and someone else's reality is it doesn't matter. They love the water. It doesn't matter whether it's hot or cold. It feels the same to them all year round. They swim all year round. The truth is we both get wet. One.
Yeah, that's the truth, exactly. Yeah.
You know what? Another thing that came to me is because I'm writing the words down as you guys speak them. Another thing that comes up for me is the truthers, and supposedly, if you look at another weaponized word, supposedly I think we're the truthers, right? We're the alternatives, the truth, the media alternatives or whatever, and so we're kind of the truthers, and it's almost like they've weaponized that word. Like, well, you guys say A, B, and C, and you try to tell us that this is quote unquote the truth. You're truthers, and versus what? I mean, I
Yeah,
never
it's
thought
like-
about it to this conversation. If you're not a truther, what are you?
It's ironic that they use the term truthers to describe people that are in the minority that believe a different reality.
Because now we're saying whose truth is true, your truth or my truth? That's what we've come down to, you know. We're saying to them, our truth is true. They're saying our truth is true. And the third party comes in and goes, well, whose truth is true? Let's look at that. Wow, this can get sideways real quick, eh? The truth.
It can. I mean, if you're one of the people in the basket of deplorables, you're a truther. And I think you made a comment, Luna, and I don't want to lose that, how we're being used. And one of the things I know we've touched on, and I think on the roundtable, is we don't want to be used by the powers that should not be. So we're trying to keep our thoughts and our spiritual side of the street clean. And we're trying not to perpetrate or help them create their reality by focusing on it. But I think that's where it got hijacked, because I think when we weren't aware of this, we were being used to help them, by our visualization, by our energy, by our anger, by our frustration, is that the truthers did help them get the message out. That the powers that should not be really wanted out there. And I'm wondering how much I use the word truth anymore. As we have this conversation, I'm trying to think, do I even use that word? And I'm not sure I do.
We do. I was just thinking then, because home language, we go, true. Like someone will say, you've probably seen me type it in the chat room, true, that's true, true that. And we say that. I just realised myself having this conversation, our community people, we say that, true that. That's part of our...
I can scroll through my messages on my phone and probably count at least within the past week where I've told somebody true statement, actual fact, or something like that.
True also has another meaning.
To truth.
It's spelled the same way, I believe, but they use the word true in things like carpentry and architecture and things like that. So it's basically I think it's a straight line. If something is true, it means it's like level. So like there comes the saying, "Let me level with you."
Right.
I don't know what that means. I just wanted to point that out, that it's there, it's in language, and it's there for a reason. I'm not sure what that reason is, but I think it might have something to do with the occasional misuse of the word true.
Well, in the past, when I was very, very young, they had things like follow your truth. That was a thing, right? And or follow your course, your compass, your you would use your inner compass and know your personal truth, and that was something that you worked hard to figure that out, and you followed your true course, right? It's like I think they've used that in movies before too. It's like following, and then I think sometimes they use the spell it TRU, true. So I think you've got something there
Well,
about
also think about like the term true north.
yeah,
It's not the
yeah,
same as magnetic north. It's different
right.
because it's like a straight line. I'm pretty sure it's like as the crow flies. It's true. I don't know what that means, like how that works in with the word truth, but often the origin of words like these come from the same word.
Yeah, that feels right, the true north. But again, that's having a compass and understanding your inner guidance, your inner words.
That's like exactly when it feels right, something rings true.
Mm-hmm.
It's so awesome. I love talking about this kind of stuff. So thanks for letting me be here. This is awesome.
Right, thank you for
Oh, that's
coming.
great.
Yeah, with that feeling that rings true. That's how everyone's got it. Everyone's got that little guide in you, and that's what keeps you safe. Tells you when people are not telling the truth to you, or trying to rip you off, or whatever. Or you go to do something and they don't tell you the whole truth. They leave some of it out. Your dinger still goes off and tells you, "Hang on, there's something not right here." So there's a discrepancy between our initial feeling when the dinger goes off and tell us that's true or that's not true when something's happening. So, and as it comes out of us, we've conditioned it to be tailored. So I presume that's why everyone's surprised when someone comes out with raw truth, because they didn't tailor it before they let it out. And it's kind of an unconditional law in humanity to tailor your truth. I'm not into that. I'm sorry. I'm an ugly truth. That's my friend actually said that to me. People like beautiful lies. You're an ugly truth. No one's going to like you. And I'm like, you beauty.
I would rather be silent than do the beautiful lie thing. I'm with you. I just think I'm not going to say. I always think to myself, I'm not even touching that.
Anyone else want to comment on that? While we're talking about that,
I'm going to choose not to comment on that.
there you go, see? Excuse me. See, this is the thing. Anyone that knows me, if I don't say anything, if you ask me a question and I don't say anything, you know that I'm not going to lie. So you know the answer by me not saying anything. Do you know what I mean? It happened to me once. This lovely woman that I knew asked me something about her partner and I didn't answer, and she just looked at me. She goes, "I know you won't lie, so that means you're not saying anything, so that means it's true." And I'm like, oh God, how do I get out of this? That's the way it is. So spiritually, when someone's telling the truth, you feel it, that dinger goes on, and you even bond with that person because they're putting forth a truth that you understand. I want to ask you, how can I put this? So a truth sayer, right? Say we got someone that always says the truth in all their life, they're a good, honest person. How their energy would look different to, say, a car salesman who we know always tailors the truth. for a sale. I'm just curious to know, has anyone ever thought about that or seen anything like that or observed it?
I'm just thinking about it now, and I'm thinking that if you can see the entire truth, that you would be very sort of aware of the person that you would perceive as being not truthful, and the reasons why they had to put themselves in that situation. And so it is kind of almost in a sense a part of your truth that you're even interacting with the person.
Interesting. Come on, Naysay, I'm dying to hear from you. Naysay, you haven't fell asleep, have you? We're not boring, are we?
I think he was looking for berries.
Berries.
There he is. Naysay.
Don't talk with your mouth full, is what Grandma always said. So I apologize. I got a little bit left.
That's okay.
But I found wild rice and vegetables. So, spherical enlightenment is what I call it. And the two-dimensional representation of a sphere is a circle. So if we draw a circle, and at the center of the circle is the truth, if I'm at one perspective and somebody else is at another perspective, if we are willing to let go of our ids or egos and circle around the truth, no matter what perspective that we look at that center, it doesn't change. And to me, that's the truth. But it is always dependent on the perspective and the experiences of the individual. So you could say 3 plus 3 equals 6, but as an Anishinaabe, I can say, no, it equals Ingo Dwaswe. It's the same concept, and it's the same reality, but it's from different perspectives. And so depending on how many people are there at the moment would depend on how we can look at the truth and come to that reality. And I've used the expression before, usually the truth between me and you is in the middle. And in my experience, my quest for the truth, the only truth that I have found is that I have not been told the truth.
Funny you say that, Naysay, because that's a lesson we all learn. I think we actually know more about truth when someone doesn't tell us the truth and we find out that they haven't told you the truth, and then it unveils what truth is. Or it gives you a good look and an idea on how it feels.
Well, I termed it Santa Claus syndrome.
Yeah.
Where as children we're raised, with this perspective of this is what my snow globe looks like. Everything's nice and settled, and then all of a sudden we learn about there is no Santa Claus, and this was a very pivotal, horrific experience in my life because I did the whole stay up late at night to try to find out, is there a Santa Claus? Because my older brother and his friends were joking about Santa Claus. And when I found out that it was really my father, I went ballistic. I yelled at him and I'm like, how dare you? We would have to sit on the edge of the bathtub with a bar of soap in our mouth for lying. And for all of these years, you've been lying to me. And it was that moment when I stopped 100% believing adults. Because it's like, okay, they're all lying, and then you find out the truth fairy and all these other things, so it was very disheartening to me. So it's like somebody grabbed my snow globe and just shook the hell out of it, and then eventually everything settles, and then we get done with middle school and then they're like, nope, you have to go on to high school, and they shake your snow globe again, and then you finish high school, and then they're like, nope, you're supposed to go to college, and your snow globe, so I am always open to find out that my truth, my perspective isn't right because of all of the different times. And to be absolutely frank, I would rather be wrong than right in my truth, because in my truth, we are all fornicated under consensual knowledge, ED.
And the silence.
Well, here's what I would add to that, is that there is almost sort of a use that truth has for a lie. And this is why. A truth learned before a lie is often forgotten. A truth learned after a lie is never forgotten.
Yeah.
And no, I didn't read that.
No, but that's true, because I was just thinking about that earlier. That's where trust comes in, because once that happens, what you just said, trust stands there and goes, hey, never forget this. Never forget what happened to you.
Right.
So, so far we've
Funny that trust and truth are both spelt with a T and an R.
Well, I was just looking at that. We got a friendship of 3 words: truth, honesty, and trust.
But truth and trust are like similar, like phonetically. They're like the same 3 first letters in both words.
Yeah.
I don't think that's just a coincidence, in my opinion.
Honesty is the glue that holds truth and trust together.
Yeah, because truth doesn't really exist without a sprinkle of honesty. And trust can't really live properly without a sprinkle of truth.
You can trust the truth because it's honest.
Ah, go, Polly. That corner table works for you, doesn't it? Yeah.
But this goes back to that perspective of say somebody says, what I'm wearing, does it make me look fat? Honesty is, yes, you look fat in that, if that is the honest perspective of you, but then this is where we're caught up on when you were talking earlier about,
Hey, nice.
the ring of the truth. What is a ring? It's like a bell ringing. So it's like a frequency. So then when you hear a perspective of someone's truth, all of a sudden sometimes you will feel that resonance of the frequencies matching. And that's kind of like that, you believe the same as I do. Even though it may not be the truth.
Or that term, we're on the same wavelength.
Exactly.
The truth is, the jeans don't make you look fat. Your face does.
Oh, I was gonna say something. I would have turned around and went, well, the truth is, I'm fat, not the dress. The dress don't make me look fat. I am actually fat. I need to lose weight.
An easier question to answer would be, did these jeans make me look skinny? All I would have had to say was no.
See? Actually, in saying that, I realised that we fight and defend for the truth. Okay? I suppose whole wars have been made for the word truth. But in our daily lives, some of us will fight for the truth, some of us will defend for the truth. In that one statement of does this dress make me look fat? That's what I realised. Someone who denies being fat would go, oh, you're just mean, or you don't like that dress, or something like that. But the honest truth would be when I look in the mirror, I go, you know what, my buddy's fat.
I attempt to look at the perspective of somebody else's truth, but don't expect me just to bend, because somebody says it. I'm like, bring your PowerPoint presentation, bring your graphs, bring your charts, bring your lectures, and bring your bullet points and your references and let's examine it. Because I'm stubborn. I'll be the first to admit it.
So if I
And
said,
so it's like, sure, share, share with me. I want to hear your perspective. I want to hear your truth. And then it comes back to that finding the truth between us,
well then,
which is difficult.
yeah, what I saw there was that someone presents their truth. Now, if you were to take it on, it would be grafted truth. But if you were to come to the middle point, like you're saying, that truth would come out of you also and meet that person in the middle.
I don't think truth can be possessive. That's like, to me, that just, I mean, I understand there's personal perceptions of the truth and different realities and stuff like that, but real empirical truth can't be possessed. It cannot be handled. You can't handle the truth. It can't be possessed. It's there before we were.
Well, another perspective I wanted to add about that Jack Nicholson line is when he says you can't handle the truth, on another level, it could be if that truth could just shatter your entire belief system. Because this is where we get into the biggest thing of, I believe it's the truth. We believe, we're putting faith in it that is how it is.
But the truth requires no belief. It requires knowing.
Yeah, I was thinking
right,
that.
But there's the challenge is trying to come together in that knowing.
Yeah, I thought the same thing, they say, because when it was said, I thought, oh, what about when you're young and you might be born into the Catholic religion and they tell you this is how it is and that, you know what I mean? Then at one point you're either totally believe what they tell you or you go, hang on a minute, that's not what I feel or what I see. So my truth would be different.
I've been asking myself, would I be willing to die for the truth? And the answer is no. But would I be willing to die to defend my reality? Or would I consider, this is how blurred it's gotten. If you'd asked this question 20 years ago, I'd say, yeah, absolutely. But right now, if we go back to the earlier conversation, would I die for my reality? Something came up yesterday with a family member, and it was with the jib jab stuff, right? And I think about, just because I believe the way I believe about the jib jab doesn't mean it's right. It just means, based on what I've heard, what I've read, I've made a decision and I'm going to defend my reality on that. And until we had this conversation, you guys, I don't think I even realized how much I've slid away from the truth, the word truth. And I still have the same intense feelings about what I would or wouldn't do where we are in this reality game, we're in this moment in time. But a lot of the words, because they've been so hijacked, and I'm looking at it using different words, and even in my head. It's really interesting.
It is.
It's a very good conversation.
So my next question, and Polly's going to like this one. Do animals know when we're telling the truth? Do animals know that we always tell the truth?
My animal doesn't care if I'm telling the truth.
As long as you hear the treat bag shake, they'll believe anything.
So,
of course they do. They have to.
Yeah.
I mean, they know when I'm telling the truth, which is always. To an animal. There's no reason to lie to an animal, right? Like, what are they going to do? Tell someone?
Yeah, animals don't know how to lie. It's not in their nature.
It's kind of like animals.
People probably tell things to their animals that they would never tell to anyone else, actually, based on that sort of trust.
You got a point there.
Well, if you know how that saying goes, children and animals know.
Yep.
So we don't even have to speak the words; they know.
Yep.
Yeah, they just pick up on the vibe somehow, like the before all the filters are put in place, and animals never get those filters.
We don't
No.
tailor their truth, that's why. We have to stop
Well,
doing that to each other.
how do you think the truth might tie into like the sort of ether concept, where like everything kind of exists in this like field, and like ideas come out of there, and like great works of art come out of there, and maybe perhaps the truth comes out of there as well?
Well, we've established it's like a bell and it has a resonance and a vibration. So I believe children and animals can see that resonance and vibration in your energy. That's why they trust somebody more that tells the truth or is honest and tells the truth. They're funny, they're tricky words. We have to talk more about that too. They'll look at them and feel it, see it, and walk up to that person and be happy. So they must, right? They must see it and feel it.
We kind of are just really like a little bit glorified animals at the end of the day, biologically speaking.
I believe personally they see it. I've seen them react to my energy, so I know they see it.
Yeah, and there's people that can see it too still, even when they're
Yeah.
like adults. Like there's all these people that can claim to talk to animals and stuff like that, and I don't not believe them. I'm sure they probably do.
Yep.
I'm sure we all probably do and don't even realize it. Like
I agree.
I've known people that they're afraid of dogs, and every time a dog is around them, the dog doesn't like it. That it gets like either like submissive, like overly submissive, like tail between the legs, or it gets aggressive and wants the person to leave. So they do definitely pick up on things, and they don't see the same way as we do either. So they might be actually visually looking at things going on with like, you know,
Yeah.
the interaction between different energy points on our bodies and different sort of magnetic field interactions between our different organs.
Yeah, that's what
They
I
can
believe.
probably like see that, and it might be frightening to them with some people, you know.
Well, I think in that perspective of where some people are fearful of dogs and why some dogs will get aggressive, because it is known that we as, quote, humans tend to strike out against what we fear. And so that would make me be suspicious that this dog wants you to go away because you're fearful, and it can't anticipate what you're going to do. It just knows that at some point you might react. And not always in the best when we're caught up in fear.
Yep, totally agree. They just have the I don't know. They just have and I see it in people as well. There's just some people and most animals, they just pick up on something, and it almost seems visual, especially if you ever watch a cat look at something that's not there.
Yeah. Like in your
Like
in the corner of your room.
yeah, exactly.
Well, is it possible that truth has a color to it? So if let's just say that truth is vibrant blue, okay, so then if animals look at us and they see that vibrant blue, then they're like, oh, sweet, there's somebody who's truthful.
Yes.
But if you're like at a baby blue, let's say the spectrum is from white to vibrant blue, so then if somebody has like a baby blue aura to them, the animals are like, oh, look, that person doesn't tell the truth. And then that brings up my question. Do we get a change in our field the less truthful we are?
I would say yes.
That's a good question, man. And you know what? Like, do we get a change in our field the more truth we know?
Yes.
Yeah, but that go back to the reality? Like that's your truth. I mean, doesn't that come down to maybe confidence? So what if there's people who, it's like I think about Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs had a knowing about himself. What it came down to is, I think the reason he was so charismatic and he did such a great job is from the things he accomplished is he knew his truth and he shared his truth, and people got on board. People love people like him. That because if you don't have your truth or you're not real clear on your truth, you follow somebody like that because, like, wow, this is exciting. This person knows what they want. They know where they're going. This looks like a place I wouldn't mind going. I'll take off and go with them, right? Because he was confident in his truth. Did I believe all that stuff that he was saying? Yeah, some of it. But that wasn't, I have my own truth. But I know as a person who's pretty intense, I have to be confident in what I'm saying, but I also have to be open enough to think people don't have to agree. I have to keep things open enough that you don't have to agree with me. I'm just sharing my passion or my truth.
Is perspective and truth the same thing?
No,
Depends
I
on
don't
what's
think
being
so.
perceived.
Hey, we'll go back to the present
What
moment.
makes somebody's perspective truth then?
Perspective seems like an opinion.
At the truth, it is an opinion.
Well, this is the where you're standing
No,
at
an
the
opinion
moment.
is formed. An opinion is formed after a perspective. A perspective comes first.
Where we
Yeah.
stand in truth
Well,
in the moment.
The experience that an individual has will kind of set the standards of where their perspective is coming from.
So your environment dictates perspective.
Well, it definitely will manipulate
Or
perspective.
influence it.
For sure. I'm just making sure.
Influence it.
I'm just making sure that's what you're saying, because I agree with that 100%, which means
Yeah.
that somebody's truth can be opposite of somebody else's truth, but which one isn't true? It depends on the environment. So that being said, then truth is just a direct result of environment.
Have you heard that metaphor about the four blind people trying to decide what an elephant was?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So that's kind of an example of like perspective. Where if they all were able to step back far enough and see, it'd be like, oh, it's an elephant. But then one is like, oh, it's a big tree trunk. The other one's like, at the tail, it's a rope. Another one at the ear is like it's a big fan, and the trunk is a hose. So this comes back to that whole thing of, where I love sacred geometry, and if you go back to the circle, and if we have three people, we have me, and we think of a clock, maybe. So if we have me at 12 noon, we have Sharon at 5, and then we have Polly at 7. Well, so we're like at a triangle, and we're looking at the truth in the middle of the center. So we all have to get our orientation on the circle and then find that balance. And once we become true, like you were saying earlier, Polly, straight and tuned, then we can all equally take a step closer to the truth. And then we work a little bit to become true again, that equilateral triangle. And then we can step in closer again. Because even though we're looking at it from above, we might be actually just going down a funnel.
But what if the truth isn't a circle?
Right. At the end of the day, we're still coming from our perspective. And we may agree that, let's say we were all looking at a car or a ball, something simple, and it's round. Okay, we agree it's round. Maybe it's red, we agree it's red. But all of us are still always going to be looking at that ball from our perspective in our lives. And what if one of us had gotten into a bad accident with a ball and caused some kind of breakage of bones. You know, we are still coming in from our perspective. And, I go back to when I speak, I have to consider where I'm coming from and what my experience in life has been, and am I leaving an open enough place for people to decide for themselves things that I'm sharing? Am I putting the stake in the ground and making people think, oh, there's no room to argue with this person or to disagree or to discuss? See, I think that's another thing that's happened in this last 18 months that's become very clear. It's been happening for a while. There's no circle for discussion anymore. You know, if we're all on the same side of the street, you can have a discussion. But if you're trying to talk to your fellow folks over across the road, that avenue has been closed, at least for now, with maybe some few exceptions. And we didn't have that as strongly as we have it now. And so that's another piece of this quote unquote truth. So as I look at my fellow humans across the street, I don't doubt that what they see is their truth, that it is working for them, and that they see the reality. I find it fascinating that we have so many separate, profound, and I consider powerful realities happening at the exact same time.
I love the ball analogy. The ball analogy is awesome because let's say you have 10 people looking at a ball, just like what you said. The truth is the ball, but the reality is there's 10 different balls because there's 10 different people looking at the ball.
Well, and that's when people come together to the belief of that truth. I always pondered about when we learn colors, that if we think of a standard red, what if somebody in their visual spectrum, it looked green, but because of their entire existence, they have been taught and directed that it's red. So they say it's red, to where because of the collective and the focus of the collective is, okay, we have red, yellow, and blue, and that's the standard, but what if it's really not red, yellow, and blue? We've just been directed and told so many times that we just agree that that's what it is.
I think that's a very valid point. Absolutely. Absolutely. And during this time, and I'm sorry if I'm saying the same thing over and over, but during this time, perhaps the part of our awakening is to, and I'll do the I word here. Part of my awakening has been to understand at a very different level all of these different realities. And the question I ask myself is, how much influence do we have in creating those realities? I think it's pretty strong. And I think it's important to honor the people on the other side of the street as well as my side of the street, their realities and our realities, because that's part of where we are in this Game of Thrones, as it were.
Can I go back to the color
Balls.
thing that
Yeah.
Mace was
Colors.
talking
Yeah.
about?
Yeah.
Okay, so the difference between the person who sees red and then the person who sees green, right? So we all know, and it's been proven that colors actually vibrate at specific frequencies.
Yep.
So the truth here in that example would be the frequency. The reality is that these two people don't perceive the same frequency in the same way. But at the end of the day, the frequency that makes that color is still the same. And it always will be, because that is the truth.
So where does that leave you?
It doesn't leave me anywhere. It means that the truth is often hidden in between many perspectives, and the real truth is, like, for example, let's take climate change. People argue that we're responsible for climate change, and other people argue that we're not. The truth is, it's changing. Whether or not it's because of us or not, it doesn't really make a difference. The difference is there is no difference. The truth is, it's changing. So if you want to take the truth and make it useful, you do something about it to prepare for it. Like, knowing the truth is that we can't do anything about it. Either way, if it's because of us, we still can't do anything about it. It's not going to do anything for another 30 years, even if we do something about it. And on the other hand, if it's a cycle, then who are we to say that we can actually control the Earth's cycles? But in the middle is the truth, that it's changing. That's what we can work with.
I was just going to make that point.
That was good. I like that.
It
Okay,
is.
Thank you. That was very helpful.
I was just going to make that point, Polly, that we have found now that the truth is the middle way.
Because truth and lies are the same thing, exactly.
So if we can find the truth, we will meet in the middle, somewhere, all of them.
One thing that I found so incredible is that when I started losing my sight, I started researching, well, how does the eye work? And you know, we talk about the number 3 in a triangle and how it has that awe of the triangle, the equilateral triangle. When you see something, it is a collision of 3 fields of energy, where the energy of your eye goes out and it hits the object of focus and it comes back into your eyes. But then also, because of the sun, you know, the big light bulb, the energy wave or field, it also hits that object of perception. And then that object of perception has its own frequency wave in itself. So when we see, we're seeing this collision of fields. And then that collision of fields, our brain takes it and goes through our neurotransmitters and receivers, looks at all the data in our storage banks, and it says, okay, that's a ball.
It's a photodynamic cascade.
Good one.
Ooh, I like that.
That's it. I think the actual term for it, I'm pretty sure.
And this kind of goes with the whole thing of, you know, who is there witnessing the ball or witnessing the truth, and can we go around the truth 360 degrees to solidify it in that whole sphere? You know, because if the ball isn't solidified from all perspectives, then it's no longer a ball. It could be like a rock. But if we look at it from 360 degrees and we solidify its shape, then we realize it's a sphere or a ball.
I'm wondering if part of the game right now is to take us off is to not have humanity agree on certain things, because that would give us power in, I think our personal energy is the power. I find that the actions I see is always trying to disrupt that, disrupt us getting together. I mean, obviously, right, as we all get to stay in our homes and, all the stuff that's going on. And we're working around that, right? We're getting together, we're talking to each other, we're supporting each other, we realize that we don't want to be a part of all that. We want to be a part of coming together and working with our energy together to go forward in something positive. And I love the fact that you brought up the word solidify, because I feel like that would help heal where we are, but I'm not sure how we would get there.
Some things solidify best in prolonged sunlight with no water and nothing.
Well, is it possible? Because in science, there is no scientific truth. That in science, there is always, at some point, it may not be now, but in the future, there's an anomaly to the cycle. And if we look back at science 100 years ago compared to today, scientists of today are laughing at these other scientists and like saying, what? But crazy enough, when you look into the Vedas and like a lot of Hindu writings and stuff, they talk about science of today. They just use different words. And it's weird how, to me, my perspective, the science of today is man's attempt to copy nature.
I think some science is afraid of questions too.
Well, especially the dogma of where their peers, the ridicule, and that goes back with the truth.
We have this
sometimes
arrogance. We have this arrogance where we think we know everything about some things, and nobody even bothers to question it, because the way that when you go into a field like that, you go for like years. Why would you question anything that you're being taught that costs that many thousands of dollars to get you taught that way? Like, why would you question that? It doesn't make any sense, right?
And that goes back with the truth, because of the all of the professors have all got into it and they all agree, and then to say something that opposes that dogma is the opposition, and you get outcast. The truth is almost that,
or you have to get it peer reviewed.
Right. And that's kind of like that's kind of like our truth. Today I got a phone call from a neighbor down the block, and she's scared to death because somebody said that they were talking about mandating the poke, and I was just blown away about how much like research she did. And she's like, well, I know I've heard you before talk about how you're not into vaccines because that's why you're blind and crippled up and in a wheelchair. And I said, absolutely, but I am absolutely positively for a vaccine if you can show me a vaccine that has no repercussions, no symptoms, and no possible detrimental occurrences to getting it. Then I'm all for it. Give me that vaccine. But I'm not willing to roll that dice for myself or my children, no matter what kind of fear they try to. And this is kind of a little bit about the truth, where some people are so afraid to share their truth because of the ridicule of what's being perpetrated out there as the truth.
All right, you said like you wouldn't want to roll that dice, but the truth is, really, Naysay, you're not the one rolling that dice.
Truth is a decision between a group of people. Me and Naysay agree that it is round. We agree it is square or it is a triangle. Math is agreed to. The structures for the algebra, everything else is all agreed to. But we're standing with masks on our face, 6 foot apart, afraid to talk to each other about what we feel is the truth. And until then, we're going to sit here and look at the wall. I'm sorry.
Thank
Good
you.
to hear you, Bernays.
Yeah, absolutely. Hello.
Yeah, thank you for that, Bernays.
Yeah, that was good.
And now we're talking about this. I was thinking a bit earlier of minorities. What makes a person a minority? And I'm thinking about their truths. The truth is they might be from a small village in a small country. The truth is their life circumstances has put them into a minority. You know what I mean?
I would like to bend that truth a little bit.
Oh, now
My
we're getting into
definition-
it, Polly. Bending the truth.
My definition of the word minority, I mean, I know what it means. Like, I get the real definition, but I want to change it to a minority is somebody who is a minor of their own ID. They look inwards. They're a minor of an ID. They're a minority.
Thanks, Polly. But I don't know how to take it. Like, thump. That one part of that hit me in the forehead, and part slipped over the top of my head. What was it? Well, the reason I come up with that was just say what we were just talking about, jibby jab and stuff. The large population say it's good for you. That's their truth. The minority could say it's bad for you. And that's just a picture I saw in my head, and I thought, hang on a minute, does truth dictate this? Will truth dictate who's going to be the minority and the majority in what's going on at the moment?
I don't think there's any truth to be seen, Lynette.
Yeah, well, you got another point there, because earlier on in the conversation we were talking about can you see it in your energy, and all I could see were the those fellas that we see on the TV screen all the time, and you look at their energy and it looks like muddy water. So how much truth's flowing through them?
We really don't know how many people have taken the jib jab. We know what they're telling us. I think it's a lie. I can't tell you the last time I believed one single thing I've seen in the press. I don't know how
The
many.
White House is trying to say 316 million administered.
Yeah.
Now, last I checked, 360 million in this country. I don't think they got it. I think that's 316 million across the world.
Now we have
Maybe.
we have hidden truths here, okay? We've got truth.
No, that's a lie. I mean, if it's coming out of the White House, it's a lie. I don't think there's any truth about that.
But in every lie lies a hidden truth.
Okay. Well,
we just need to find it.
You could have realised that.
We just need to find it, and then
it's like that word occultation. You know, that the truth is there, but they've hidden it, or they put something in front of it so you can't find what the truth is. Because at some point someone is thinking you can't handle the truth. Mm-hmm. And it's better for us, and this is where you look at the historical reference of the elitist, for some reason, unbeknownst to me, they feel that it is in our best interest that they make the decisions about us.
Yeah, no, that's correct. That's very correct. You know what? The other thing I was thinking, let the truth set you free. Right?
Freedom. And
I was also thinking that possibility with the current vaccination technology that we have right now, it doesn't kill the virus. It just makes you less sick. So the unfortunate side effect of this, and many doctors would love to come out and talk about it, but if they do, they're considered anti-vaxxers and they lose their careers. But when you introduce a vaccination like that, it almost encourages variants to develop. So people are walking around vaccinated, carrying more of the virus around with them than people who have not been vaccinated nor have ever been sick, or people that have been sick and got over it. So something
I wish
going on here.
I wish I knew how to share these documents that I've been given. They're actually like literally Senate committee hearings. And one of the documents I have is called Biological and Chemical Testing Involving Human Subjects by the Department of Defense. You know, and it talks about how they go beyond my example of my existence of being given experimental vaccines to how they just take it upon themselves to test the regular so-called civilians. And then this goes back to like where some claim that we're sheep or we're product or we're goyim, you know, and it goes back to the elitist about, well, do we give them this little sliver of the truth and then 6 months later we'll give them a little bit more of the truth, you know, and it's easy, I believe, to manipulate us by giving us these little slivers of the truth where they're directing us to their agenda.
But isn't a half truth, a sliver of the truth, a lie?
Yeah, and that lemonade's been watered down, man. I wouldn't drink that. If truth was a drink, it's been contaminated.
Yeah, no, that's well said, Luna. It's been contaminated, and you know, like having been in business for a very long time, one of the things I finally learned because I used to sit in the marketing meetings. I have to say, mostly this is in a marketing meeting. If the more someone gets up there and you don't understand a dang thing that they've said, or they use really huge words, I used to think I was stupid. Then I realized they weren't saying anything. I finally caught on. They didn't say anything. The reason you didn't understand it is because there was nothing said. It was just a whole bunch of words. And I think another,
That one was bullshit.
exactly. And so, it comes down to, if you do decide the truth, it doesn't take a long time for you to say those words. There's usually less words needed to expand on the truth. And going back to what you were saying, Naysay, about, I do believe that this was set out intentionally, that it was a biological test, and that they had a game afoot. They even said so in one of those press briefings. They said, "Hey, look, this is live now. This whole game we're playing is live." And now, and Trump, the T guy, was standing right there on stage when he said, "Oh, would have been nice if we had been told." And so from that time on, this stuff's been rolling out. And so if you go back to what Polly said, there was truth in that. There was the truth. This game has gone live. And it's been live ever since. So you could take that one word out of it and say, yeah, we're in a live test right now. And so that's why I don't believe anything they say, and I certainly don't trust them. And I think truth and trust do go together. And I think that the more we go forward in our lives at this moment in time, really trust the person who's speaking, if I'm going to believe the things that they're saying. Whereas I might have been a little bit more open a while back, now I have to at least have some kind of relationship with somebody, and then I listen.
Do you think the truth can evolve, or does the lack of evolution of a truth prove its authenticity or validity or truthfulness?
I think it can evolve. I think based on our conversation today, we're talking about something that is moving, right? And I think before I would have thought that it was one thing, but maybe
so
that's
truth
not
isn't
true.
Static.
Right.
It's not a solid platform. It's like jelly liquid.
That's a really cool idea.
But maybe there's different avenues of this. Like, didn't you talk about, if we go about the ball or the colors or something like that, perhaps at the foundation that doesn't change, but there's other things. I'm sorry, go ahead. Who is ever talking? Bernays, go ahead.
I'm sorry, Hannah.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna agree with you. What I think I'm trying to get at is every time me, you, everybody infers their truth into it, then we're adopting, changing. We're a virus also. We infect the crap that's going on. And sometimes maybe we kill some of the bad stuff. Sometimes we maybe help it. I don't know.
I think you're right. I've heard that before. I think you're right. I think we're the virus.
Yeah, my people would say that. Only because
I'm
you're
not antivirus.
antivirus.
I'm not antivirus. They have their uses.
They do. And we all have them.
Originally, at the beginning, before the industrialization and medicine was used for profit, that the principle of a virus was very beneficial because, and this goes back, from my perspective of trying to stay alive. I went to the William Hitt Center down in Tijuana because they were doing ozone therapy. And I went in there and the doctor said, "When's the last time you saw this in a doctor's office?" And it was a microscope. And so he said that everybody within your blood, you have many diseases in your blood, and that your immune system is consistently at war. And the minute one of those dis-ease, once they compromise your immune system, then you might get MS, or you might get cancer, or you might get lupus, or, it depends on what disease will overtake your immune system. And so his whole thing was about supporting the immune system, building it up, because as we get older, our bodies get more and more polluted. And so he pricked my finger and he did 7 slides of my blood. And then he went and looked at the blood and he said, "Yeah, there's a bunch of particulates in your blood that aren't supposed to be there, that your immune system is trying to rid of." And so he said that at the time, this is in 2007, 2006, at the time, he said that, no, 2007, he said, I had the blood of a 90-year-old with all of the contaminants that were in my blood. So I went through this 11-day treatment where they heavily oxygenated my blood, and within 3 days of this process, I was able to reduce my pain medication in half and my anti-inflammatories by a third. And then by the 11th day, I was doing only 1/3 of my anti-inflammatories and 1/2 of my pain medication. And when I left that place, and he even showed my partner at the time and said, "Look, here's an image of your blood when you came in here, and now look at his blood now," where he would point out, this shouldn't be there. Because, he's a doctor. He knows what's supposed to be in your bloodstream and what's not. So this is kind of like the truth. The truth is like a healthy blood cell, but they've contaminated our bloodstreams so badly that we can't find any of the healthy blood cells anymore.
Actually, I was going to say that we know that things that happen to us in life can cause us sickness, emotions and feelings. And I was just wondering, being told non-truths all the time, what sickness would come out of it and what kind of contamination would come out of it. Because I'm thinking 2 years down the track and we're still being told exactly what we're being told. But yeah, think of it, another couple of years of this no truth war, And how would our energies, our bodies come out? Like, we'd be suffering depression and all sorts of things, skin irritations.
I think that's already happening, Luna. I mean, you have suicides out there. You've got more alcoholism. This is what I'm hearing. You've got more people addicted to drugs. I mean, somebody sent me an email with some information on it today, and it was another threat from the government about, no, God knows what, you guys. I mean, at this point, I'm just like, okay, another threat. Thanks so much. And I don't let it go through my body anymore. It's like and I wrote back to my friend and I said, I'm exhausted. I'm absolutely exhausted with the threats. I'm over it. And I've heard from some interesting people, some doctors and psychiatrists and stuff, and they said, a human body cannot do this level of threats. You just get exhausted. And you get so tired of it, you just walk away. You just like, okay, I don't care. And one of their predictions is we're getting to the point where the humans are like, and whatever you were, those of us that are sick of all this, we're just like, we're over it. Because you can just overdo it, right? It's like if your parents threaten you every 5 seconds, at some point, it doesn't have any meaning anymore.
In the
That's why
Five
the
Eyes
truth is your
countries,
barrier.
the English-speaking world is under a giant stress test.
Do you think
You
that?
look into Europe where the other languages are a little different, they're kind of in the streets. The English-speaking world is under a giant stress test.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
I agree. Yeah, I agree too.
I
Well,
think I'm passing.
from my own experience, the stress and the fear, which caused anger, I felt at one point in like 97, 96, where I like had to just let it go because I felt that the stress or the fear of my illness was killing me almost as fast as the illness was. And so I had to figure out how can I change my attitude, because attitude is everything. And if we resonate at a certain frequency, when that frequency gets bombarded and it lowers, then we're more susceptible to disease. And that's why I made a $6,000 purchase to the Beamer bioelectric magnetic emulator resonance to help me raise up my frequency.
Wait, hold. What about the idea that a sudden change in frequency, which disrupts a normal frequency of any living thing whatsoever, actually encourages spontaneous, rapid evolution?
Yeah.
I hear you, Polly. I hear you.
Yeah.
But what happens if you put all the aluminum in the air and start firing the harp off and bouncing the signal against the humans to see what they do?
Right? It's an idea.
I was thinking, listening to you, is at some point, if you're fed untruths, you explode and you find truth. Something inside you tips and goes bang, and then all of a sudden you find your own truth and you're not swallowing what they're trying to feed you or graft onto you.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
No, yeah, that's right. Or graft onto you, and that we have something like when you try to kill yourself, you can't, because there's something in us that wants to live. There's something in us that stands up for truth. That Bing thing, whatever that Bing is, doesn't matter what you say or do, it will keep binging and saying, I am the truth, I exist, I exist. It's like akin to saying, I want to live, I want to live. Do you understand what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
When you get to the truth, then you don't have any more questions. And then so all that anxiety goes away.
Yeah. And truth, I've noticed in the beginning of this conversation, so many times we all went silent, and I've noticed that about truth. It makes everyone go quiet and settled, like you said, Polly. It makes all that stuff go away, and all of a sudden you find yourself in this quiet, peaceful truth. When it's the real one, because if someone was trying to impress their truth upon me, which is kind of happening in the world, and that little Bing thing is fighting it, going, no, 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 no. If I can stand up and ring out my truth within me and through the air, it will settle me, and I'll be calm and quiet.
Yeah, I was thinking earlier. The truth is kind of like your portable shelter in a way, metaphorically speaking, where you can just put it up, and it kind of shelters you from the rain of everybody else's truth, or what you, I guess, would consider lies or stresses or anything else like that. The more truth you know, the more shelter it provides from these kinds of things.
That's the beautiful. I really like that. I wonder if you take what you said and Luna said, and like my comment to my friend today, I'm just exhausted with this stuff. And you guys all know I've got this new job, and I'm like in the deep end of the pool, and I'm just immersing myself in the job. And I'm doing it, I need to do it, but I also am doing it intentionally because I can put all of this stuff on mute, all of the crap on mute. I keep up with it for 30 minutes a day, if that. I just look at the headlines and see what's going on, but I'm ignoring it. If it doesn't come to my front door, then I don't really have to deal with it at this point. They've ramped it up so high and so ridiculous that I can't be involved in it anymore. And so I have to say, I do have my truth inside my heart of what I think is going on. I've read enough, heard enough. I'm not saying that I can't learn some more, but I think I know what I see out there. And so you're right, that is this portable shelter while they continue to bombard their crap.
Now, all you can do is look out the window and hope the people that are out there without shelter find it soon.
Tomorrow's good.
Yeah. Hopefully it doesn't hail.
Well, it can hail good stuff.
And
What you just said is you're using the shelter to keep your consciousness safe. You're not allowing them to invade it. Consciousness, consensus, it's all the same.
Hey, good word, man. Consciousness. I don't think we brought that word into the play here with truth. Truth itself may be conscious.
I was getting to that point, actually. Thank you, Bernays and Polly. When I said it was like a jelly liquid, it's like a life form of its own, and it grows.
All is mind,
Yeah.
just like that law.
It grows, but we all recognise its true form. And
What do you mean by true form?
that Bing in us, when it bings, that's its
That
true
when
form.
you
We
see
recognise
it,
it.
when you hear it, you know it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, we're feeling the elephant, right? We know inside us somehow it's an animal. Right? Say it's the elephant. I would use that. No, say it's the example. We know it's an animal. We know it's a large animal, right? And we've heard from each other that it has a trunk and it has skin and a tail and 4 legs. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? There's something in us that knows what truth looks like, its true form.
Mm-hmm.
Are they preventing that
Yes.
from coming? Is it birthing itself in this world now? Perhaps.
Like foggy truth glasses.
Yeah. Or
It's
an
been the
off
sauce
key in the
somebody
music
put
of
on
truth.
for 100 years. That's got us all screwed up.
Because for truth to
That's
be
an
born...
interesting.
Sorry, Sharon.
I was going to say, that's an interesting question, Luna. Is it birthing itself now?
It can't bullshit no longer. It's done.
See, there it is again.
I would go back to the full spectrum, that just as much as truth is growing at the polarity, so with the lie.
Yeah.
And it's that challenge of trying to find the common ground, the middle center, and this is where it's like, I always ponder about the beliefs, is your belief the truth, or is it just your truth of the belief?
Belief is the opposite of knowing, and they've got a ratchet strap that does the opposite of what a ratchet strap does, and they're pulling reality away, or knowing away from belief, and it's just getting exponential. Everything that comes up, they polarize because they know the law of polarity. They polarize it on purpose because they know, or at least they think, that all people are stupid, and they'll just pick one side and fight for it no matter what the issue is. When in reality, the issue they're fighting over is it's the same thing. They're fighting over something that's like the same thing. And take any of the conflicts.
Well, I'll give you a good example.
They're all just opposites of the same thing, is what I'm saying, and they get people to fight over something that can't be won.
Well, an example I'll give you is 9/11. Everybody has their theory, and they're so hung up on their theory that they keep overlooking the whole truth of it, is that it happened. Let's not get caught up in why and how, or not why, but how it happened. The fact is that it happened.
Many people have been born since 9/11. Also consider that, and those people also have opinions on it as well. So there's that kind of influence that's going on. So they like, depending on their environment, they're going to be taught by whoever is they look up to that this is what happened on 9/11, even though they weren't alive.
Hey, I just
well, that's like when you are raised in a household that is Lutheran, you're more likely to be Lutheran or Catholic or Buddhist or whatever. That's typically how it goes. That you will follow the truths of your parents, of course, until you get 18, and then you got to get kicked out of the house or kicked out of the nest. Infinity.
Hey, I just...
Sorry.
I wanted to go back to something you guys all just said, and Luna, I think you brought this up originally. The more that we get bombarded with the idiotic crap that comes our way, that must mean that they are counteracting the truth, or what I perceive as real. Okay, whatever word we want to use at this point at times. So in other words, the more they bombard, the more the truth pops up its head. It's like that whack-a-mole, where you have the little hammer, and those little things come out of and you keep trying to hit it.
Yep.
I wonder if they keep trying to push down the truth, and the more they bombard us, the more that the truth grows as well in strength. I mean, until you guys brought it up, I never thought about the fact that the lies and the truth are actually going hand in hand, and that's very smart.
Well, that gets us back to oscillating back and forth.
Yeah, and I was listening to all that, and I realised there's a little trick there, because when you're in your centre, you're calm and all that, right, and you just stand there in your centre. You get tricked out of it, and someone might come up and say something to you, and you'll get tricked out of it, and before you know, you're defending and fighting for something instead of standing in your centre. They've got us fighting and defending truth, And these words come over me, let the truth speak for itself. We've all heard that.
Yeah.
Let the truth speak for itself.
Holly said something a minute ago about
About
sunlight. Justice Brandeis, sunlight is the best disinfectant.
Yeah. So are they tricking us just by having to stand up and say, that's not true what you're saying, we're saying the truth? Have they tricked us out of our centre because we're in defence and fighting for the truth? And are we supposed to just stand in our truth and let the truth speak for itself?
I'm wondering how fearful they are. I saw a interview with Mussolini over here in California, and I've never seen him react the way he did in the interview. It was like 5 minutes. He was extremely defensive. His body posture was super strange. He had his fingers in his mouth at one point, and he was sitting there, and he was angry and defensive. And we're facing this recall election September 14th, which is like a month from today. And he has all these people saying that it's one side of the street that's produced this recall, and the truth is it's on both sides of the street, which has been shocking for our buddy. But watching him, I've never seen him be so indecisive, uncomfortable, and defensive. And so while he and the gang are perpetrating these lies and saying that it's all one side of the street that put this together, it's the T team, right? It's the MAGA team that did this. It's all them. Because if they do that over here in my state, he's hoping that will motivate the people on the other side to show up, because what's happened is the people on the other side are complacent right now. They don't want that. What they're hearing back from them is they don't care. They don't care about this election because it's a extra election. Whereas my side of the street's pretty motivated because we've been talking about this for 2 years, right? So if going back to what you said, how much, because I've been hearing people predict and talk about the fear that these folks have because they're not getting the reaction from us they're expecting, because we're not really doing anything. And I actually think that's smart. We're not reacting. We're not flooding the streets. We're not bringing out our guns that everybody says we're so horrible about, which I think, again, is very smart right now. This is not the time to do something crazy. And I think it's almost like the universe has us quiet at the moment. We're still looking, we're still watching, we're still perceiving, we're still trying to figure out maybe what our actions are. So, you guys were saying that the truth will speak for itself. And watching this character do this whole thing, I was actually quite shocked. And maybe they'll disintegrate. It's like the witch, where they put the water, the Wizard of Oz, and they just threw a bucket of water and she melted. I'm melting. Maybe that's what will happen to Noosa. And it was non-violent, really. She just threw water on her.
And also, other than the truth being a barrier, if you know enough truth, you can kind of always stay 2 steps ahead of the lies, because you can predict what lies are going to come next.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. This script has been used, the same script has been used over and over and over. We talked about that last week. They're using the same script. And I feel like, I don't want to help them out, but I feel like sitting down with the Noosa guy and go, dude, do you have no imagination? Can you not use another script? This didn't work too well at the end for most of you folks.
Funny you say that, Sharon, because sometimes with certain people, they're like, let's have this conversation and put it out there. And I'm like, we don't want to give them ideas now.
No. Well, you know what? Here's the deal. They wouldn't listen.
I hope not.
consider me, I'm not on their Richter scale.
Yeah,
I'm
true.
not of value to them. They would just look at me like you're a piece of lint
Yeah.
on my suit.
So kind of like they're so sure of their truth that it's actually tricked them into
Complacency?
yeah, and not a good place.
Overconfidence?
Yes,
They
not
have fear plugs in their ears. They can't hear the truth.
Yeah.
Because of the fear plugs, they can't hear anything.
Yep.
I like that fear
If you're
plugs.
committing the greatest crime in the 21st century of taking over the monetary system that was established by our birth certificates and changing it to a COVID registration for the money system, I don't know. It's one of
That is
those truths. It's one of those truths that's in my gut that I can't check away yet.
And I got
That is truth.
one last question before we round up this table. Why is it that sometimes you can say a truth and everyone goes, and they all agree and we all go quiet, but then sometimes another person will say a truth and everyone has a hard time swallowing it even though they know it's the truth. That's the ugly truth I was talking about before. Because there are beautiful truths, we know that, okay? But what about the ugly truths? So what do you think makes somebody be able to swallow one truth but not another?
Now, when you say that, are you saying that both of them are true, but some? I mean, I think it depends on where we are in our lives. Like sometimes people will say something to me, and I don't want to face it. It's the timing, right? So, what if they tell me the truth, which has happened lots in my life, by the way, and I didn't want to hear it because it required me to grow. It required me to change. It required me to change my attitude, right? And that's always a risk when we tell quote unquote a truth to somebody, and they're going to have to do something about it, or they do have the choice to ignore it.
Sure. I think sometimes with that said, that the truth, why it hurts so much is it's that gut reaction you have and that possibility of changing something, stepping outside of your comfort zone, trying something with bringing all the uncertainty. That's the gut feeling. Even though you know it's true, you have to
Right.
adapt to change.
Yep.
Also, if you're ever in doubt of something that is true, it can always be tested. Truth always passes the test. Always. Every single time.
You know, one of the best sayings I've ever heard about this: never tell your friends an ugly truth. Let their enemies do that. They'll do a better job, and they'll probably react. And there's such wisdom in that sometimes, like, all right, for instance, if you know somebody's having an affair on somebody who's married, do you tell that person or do you choose to just let it evolve? And oftentimes I've stayed silent because I didn't want to be the person that would be tagged with telling that story. I chose.
Oftentimes. How many times has this happened to you?
Well, I didn't mean, well, I used to be married to a police officer, so we had a lot of drama. My life used to be filled with a lot of drama, Polly, so it doesn't happen. Let's just say that doesn't happen anymore, but
I'm
back
just
in my
digging for
drama
a truth.
days.
What a sheltered life Polly has led.
It's funny you
Yeah,
bring that up. Sorry, Bernays.
In the holographic universe by Michael Talbot, they talk about sometimes our closest friends can be our worst enemies because of their fear of telling their perspective of the truth, because it just creates a greater fear of losing the friendship. And this goes back to where, are we being honest with each other, or are we, being truthful with each other?
Or how many times have you heard that you can't hear it from your spouse, but you can hear it from somebody else? I've heard that a lot.
Yeah, how come
Yeah.
the truth?
Everybody always hates the sound of their own voice, so it's better to hear it from somebody else, in my opinion.
I'll tell you something that happened to me. As you know, people come to us to see stuff we see for them. I had a woman show me a picture of her husband. They'd been married for a couple of years, and they just had a beautiful baby boy. And I'd never met her husband. She showed me the picture. Oh, and as soon as I saw it, I knew he was playing up on her. And at that moment, I looked at her and I thought, now I have the choice here. I can say, your husband's playing up on you. She'll go home. They'll have a massive argument. And it'll ruin her beautiful newborn baby's experience. Or I can say nothing and let her find out in the long run and let her have that beautiful experience. And
How do you know it would ruin it?
well, a few things would happen. One, either she'd hate me and not believe me and go, that's not true, he's not playing up, and then find out later that he was, and then come back to me and say. And if I did tell her and she believed me, it would have made it shorter time. They would have split up earlier because they would have had a big argument. He probably would have said yes, or she would have followed him or something. You know what crazy women are like. When they think their partner's playing up, they'll go and follow them and do all sorts of things. So she would have found out. The decision I made was not to say anything. And she had like 2 years of happiness, and her son grew up a little bit, and then she found out and she came back to me. And then I told her I had to tell her because, I had to say I knew that, but I didn't want to tell you. And the reason why I didn't tell you is because I wanted you to have a bit of happiness. And she just gave me a hug. She didn't say either way what would have been good. She just gave me a hug. But that was my decision at that time, was not to say anything. And
that's a pretty incredible decision. Like, to not judging the decision either way, but to actually make that decision, which, I mean, it really did. I mean, there's no way to know for sure, but I mean, because you can't go both ways at the same time, whether you tell her or you don't tell her. But that influenced that certain amount of time from when she didn't know to when she did know.
Yep.
So you single-handedly influenced, I guess, what you could. I mean, did you influence her truth?
I don't know what I did, Polly. I just had to make a decision, and I did it with my heart. And because of being a mum myself, I thought I knew that time for a baby. I was thinking of the baby too, because if that baby had had that first year or two in upheaval, as he grew up, he wouldn't have had a beautiful, happy platform. You know what I mean? He can look back on that, when Mummy and Daddy were together, we were happy and I grew up strong until Mummy found out about Daddy. But if I could have took that away from that kid, and from the moment I born, Mummy and Daddy were angry. That's what I saw in my heart. I was thinking about her. I was thinking about the love. What do I do with this love? Destroy it now or let it live a little bit more? And I'm glad I let it live a little bit more, because it nourished that little boy for the first couple of years. And he still sees his dad and everything. Their relationship's still okay. And I feel that if I had have said something, I might have spoiled that relationship. They all happen in 1 second, and I'm just like, Crowder, give me the guidance. But that's part of my job. People come to me for help, and I have to be totally honest from the heart and make decisions like that.
And it adds an interesting perspective to the truth idea, especially because I'm still on the fence of whether or not truth can be individual or not, but there's an argument that it can be individual. So this is why I love these conversations.
This is why
I wanted to add something here too, is that I think that something like this, I think everybody knows if this kind of thing is going on, and then they allow the truth to come in when they're ready to deal with it. And the other thing I think very strongly, again, going back to this last 18 months, is every single person on this planet has a guide. We all have guides. We all have creator. We are all attached to that light. who am I to decide beyond the higher self that guides that person that I have their truth, right? I don't. And so, Luna, I think you made the absolute right decision. That probably wasn't your story to tell or your truth to say. You did the right thing, because I still think we know when we're ready to see what's around us, we will see it.
Well, I've had the opposite thing happen to me, where I had a young lady come to me and she was pregnant and she didn't even know if she was going to stay with the fella, and it wasn't the best relationship, and I didn't want to. We can't influence free will, okay? But I'm listening to everything she had to say. My heart was going out for her, and because I was an older woman and that, I had a bit more wisdom in relationships. And I wasn't going to say nothing. And upstairs, I felt the words come in the back of my head and out through my mouth. And this is what I said to her, and I even kick myself for saying it, but I'll tell you the rest of the story. I said to her, what happens if you don't have the baby? And everyone in the room was like, oh, how dare you say that? And I'm thinking, I didn't say it. I'm thinking to myself, I didn't say it. They just come out of my mouth. And anyway, it didn't go down very well. And I couldn't force the truth from coming out, see? And I couldn't stop the truth from coming out of my mouth. It just got forced out. A couple of weeks later, she come back, happy as, gave me a big hug, and I'm thinking, oh, what's going on? And this is a turnaround. She obviously found out something about him, got rid of him, and she didn't have the baby, and come back to me and felt a lot better. So in that situation, I had no control over the truth. It was forced out of my mouth. It was like it was a future truth that hadn't come true yet, but did come true and worked in my favour.
I think... Sorry, go ahead.
Go, because that's all I have to say.
Well, I think the question that I have is, when you saw this woman's picture and you saw the picture of her husband, and right away you got this impression that he wasn't being faithful to her, did she ask you, is he being faithful to you or to me? Because then,
Nah, she
then
had no
you
idea.
have to answer.
Yeah, she had no idea. Yeah, I'm glad she didn't ask me, because that would have been a harder decision. She had no idea. She was in blind young love, just married, new family. For a woman, it's the ultimate dream. And I didn't want to
this is
spoil her ultimate dream.
a challenge that I will deal with, that when I have people that come to me and ask me questions, I usually try to only answer the questions they ask me and not give them things that I perceive about them.
I think just listening to you two right now is kind of a sort of almost proof that truth itself may have a conscience, or be conscious, or like it knows when to not show itself because it's going to get kicked out or whatever.
Or it won't be heard.
Or it won't be heard yeah, exactly.
Written in English common law is the statement of an excited utterance to be taken as the truth. And what Luna just described, what happens to me, what happens to, I think, all of us at times, is when that hits inside of us, we can't control it. It comes out of our mouths. And it was recognized a long time ago.
Again, more proof that truth itself it's conscious. It works through us to explain itself.
But then would we be... Go ahead,
I was just going to say, it has a power. A truth, the truth has an energy and a power. And like Luna, you've said, sometimes it comes out. That's exactly correct.
But then
because it can't be handled.
Would we not then logically say that if truth has a power or an essence to it, then so does a lie?
Definitely.
Oh, yes,
equal.
Absolutely.
Equal and opposite equal.
Look
But
at
they come
how
out totally different. They come out of your mouth totally different. I'm sorry, Nano. Go right ahead.
no, Bernays, you're absolutely right, which is what we've said, that we're recognizing it for what it is, right? We're recognizing the lies and we're recognizing, quote unquote, the truths. That's exactly right. And so they use all of it to manipulate everything. They've turned everything inside out and upside down. But even through all of that, pixie sticks where you throw it on the desk and you try to take one without everything falling apart, at the end of the day it does, because there's the truth and there's the lie, actually. And it does resonate differently. And you just look at it and go, I don't think so, right? I don't think so.
But
The
would it
truth
not
is like
also?
this.
Go ahead, Bernice.
Okay, Bernays, we don't hear much from you. We like your wisdom.
Share it, brother.
I'm sorry. That was one of those excited utterances that you have a scene. You start pulling the stitches, or you have a weak stitch in the lie. It comes apart.
Yep.
But would it also depend on the weaver of the lie and the presentation?
If you can find who puts the other stitches into the scene, which is being done, Mark at Houstatonica, what a great figure that guy is. A little bit of working together. We got half the players here that are all doing this through NIH and doing this through the Red Cross all the way back to 1917. What I try to suggest to you, Nano, those people in that law firm, they got all the clients. They were the Valley of the Boom lawyers that issued the paper for the money.
Right.
It's just a track. You're just somebody said it earlier, a narrow path through the truth. And then it's all Bernays bullshit on both sides, spinning it up to keep everybody busy so the money keeps flowing.
And that's been the game for a very long time, is to spin the lies. But I think that this moment in time, I think because of what we're all, let me say this differently. I think that what they did and how they've rolled this crap out has actually not necessarily worked for them. I think this last, again, 18 months, 2 years, has worked against them. Because, as I've heard from many people, in order for them to step on the stage and bring in their plans, they've also had to expose who they are and expose the game. So we've been blessed with that.
So,
I agree, but that's only if we use it to our advantage. And we are at that tipping point.
Right.
okay,
I'd agree
so
with you.
we're going to round up this table, and I want to thank Truth for teaching us so much today, because Truth does teach us. I truly believe now, listening to the conversation, that Truth is a actual energy, and like an entity, an energy, one like love and the rest of them. And Truth is actually on the universal guidelines, what I call universal guidelines. Truth is one of them. So we'll just round it up, and we'll go through, and anyone can start to give us your final thoughts on what is truth.
Well, I'll just say this is why I like to take the corner seat, because if the table gets too tilted, it doesn't matter, because I'll just like lean up against the wall or something like that, you know?
8:30 p.m.
I had the awesomest time, and thank you for this conversation. Like the people that I have to spend time with in real life, not only do they not listen, but they don't, even if they did listen, they're misinterpreting most of the time. And refreshing to be able to talk about like these kinds of concepts without people just going like glossy-eyed and like, what the hell are you talking about? So thanks for that. It was great. I had a lot of fun and I learned a lot too.
Thank you, Polly. Thanks for coming and joining us. And I hope you're back next week. Sharon?
Such
Jules?
an
Go.
it was such an interesting question that I still am searching for answers what truth is. My core, my spirit, that gut instinct inside of me says that this is the truth. Connecting with everybody here on the same frequency, that is where my truth starts.
Cool. Naysay, Sharon?
I think what I learned today, and I want to thank everybody for sharing because I didn't even realize until we all started sharing some thoughts, and I think that I've moved from the word truth to the word reality, that I have broadened my view about the fact that I no longer believe there's an ultimate truth. I think there is a reality that has been created and that we are co-creating at the exact same time, which to me supports the fact that I think we have a role we play in this at this moment in time, and we have a powerful role. We are helping to create this reality. And I think that it's teaching me to walk softer. So thank you so much for doing this. This was great. Again, knowing we were going to come together and talk today certainly was a big shiny star for it to help me get through last week. So just blessings, everybody, for all your shares. Beautiful.
Well, as the cycles keep going around and around, the full spectrum of doom or magnificent experiences are to come around the corner or around the curve. But the powers that should not be, they like to flatten that curve because they want to see their alignment of their design to happen. And as we have different players and different games, we sometimes realize that it's the same checkered game board and we're being manipulated most of our existence. And to be able to step back and look at reality from all perspectives so that we can find an attitude of positivity to go through it is most definitely beneficial. And I appreciate coming together at these precious moments with all of you so we can hear each other's truth and hopefully step away from it with a positive attitude as we continue to go through it. Thank you. Miigwech.
Thank you, Naysay. And it's definitely been an interesting conversation. I want to thank everyone for their input and thank you for the things that I've learned also today and what I've realised about truth. And thank you everyone for listening and hope to see you all again next week. I can't even summarise the discussion today because my mind's still going bing, bing. It's still thumping like a heart taking all this in. That's real. I've so enjoyed it. So I'll leave it at that and just say, may truth find you in a beautiful way and love to you on this day. Yellow. Yellow, everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yellow.
See ya.
Out.
Toodles.